Fourth time in. All right, this week, what are we doing? We're going in and putting the export brace in this car. It is not for final. These are going to be things you're going to have to do when you're putting one of these export braces in a 1965 Ranchero or 63 to 65 Falcon. So we're going to be dealing with all that after the break.
Restoration of a classic Ford is a journey of discovery. Let Autocrafters help you with yours. We offer quality parts for Falcon, Fairlane, F-Series, Galaxy, Maverick, and Pinto. Contact us today.
All right, I'm back with my fasteners in hand. I wanted to talk about what we're going to be using on this because I made a mistake on this side of the car. To some people's estimation, I did not put an isolator in here, which helps hold these fasteners right here in place on the car. I don't know if you need to have the isolator in place. The problem it causes is there's now a lot of room between these two, and this can roll off the top of the spring. In a case like this, when I'm not using an isolator, I will go in underneath the spring with some kind of wedge that I can put in there temporarily and remove after I get everything set. Right now, we don't have even the shock tower top plates on this car because, quite frankly, we don't know where they are in the mix of things. Always good to have the spring isolators in there if you're worried about lots of noise from the chassis, because that's what those things do. They isolate the noise of the spring, which is being transferred from the upper control arm into the car. So if you want to get rid of that, you put the isolators in there, and that should help reduce your noise. I'm going to talk a little bit about the fastener kit that we're running. The fasteners we have are very correct for these applications, but I did notice a difference between our original fastener, which is this one right here, for the shock tops, and the replacement fastener, which is right here. This one has a button head on it, and the other one does not. It actually is just basically flat as a pancake. I don't know if this would be more tight up against an isolator, but if you don't have an isolator, there's still plenty of room to clear that head. The other fastener that we have, this is actually the correct, from AMK, the correct bolt and nut assembly for an export brace on a 65, 66 Mustang, well, Shelby in this case. This is the fastener set that they use. So this would be correct on this car, I guess, because these cars never came with export braces, so we're starting to split hairs that may not even exist. What I'm going to do next, though, is I'm going to go ahead and try to get this thing set up so I can put these fasteners in those holes, hopefully without them falling out, before I can get the export brace mounted to that so that I can try to test fit and make my holes. Anyway, we got a lot to do. All right, so I've made some tabs to put in here to hold the fasteners in place. I've already got one installed here. This is just cardboard from the box they came in. I started to do this with wood, and I'm like, I'm overthinking this, like I always do. So I underthunk it, and I went in here and I used cardboard to put these in. You'll notice I've already got this one in, and it's fairly tight. If you want to make it tighter, you can put 2 pieces of cardboard. It's real straightforward. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish putting these in. I'm going to talk to you about taking out ones that are not real friendly and they don't want to come out on the other side of the car. All right, so what I'm going to talk about now is taking these out if you want to replace them. Now, sometimes you're not going to want to replace them. You're just putting an export brace on there, so it's not a big deal. But if you want to remove them, one of the things that I've used before is just to take a vice grip and grab onto it. And one of the problems I found, I'm going to see if I can get this off without spilling it into the floor. I'm going to put it up here real quick. One of the problems I found with these particular flat style of bolts is you'll see how this one is decidedly saddled out. You don't want to reuse this one if you don't have to. I mean, the threads are boogered up on it. It's in really bad shape. I would just replace this as a matter of course when I'm doing an export brace. Might as well put brand new fasteners in there if you're going to put brand new parts. In a case of, as we always like to say around here, while you're here. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to install the new ones. I won't say try, they will install. I'm going to set that one there, and I'm going to show you on this one, if you have a problem with positioning on these, what you can do is you can take a punch, get down on the tab, take a hammer, and tap those into place. It's a little harder on these on the outside edges, but it still can be done. And I got one more to do, but I mean, I've already done two, so you don't need to see the other one. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna be mounting the brace on the hardware that we got in here so we can set up for our holes right up here. All right, so I am going to now start jigging this into position. I'm going to tap these fasteners into play a little bit better because two of them are pretty much out. Okay, that side dropped on. I'm going to drop my fasteners into place on these for the moment so I don't lose the work I've done already. And there's really not much more to do here other than possibly having to move the fasteners around just a little bit. That side's pretty out. I'm a little worried about the rear one over here on the passenger side, so let me go over there. I don't need to hammer for these because it's just cardboard holding it in place. That went surprisingly well. All right, I'm gonna get my fasteners on board here. I'm gonna go grab my 1/2-inch drive. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and set my holes in the lip here on the firewall. And I'm using a centering punch. You don't have to do this. I am just terrible at this kind of stuff. Cam can center them up really good. I suck. So I've got the centering punch. Now if you do want to use a centering punch, this is a 25/64. I'm only going to lightly tap it. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure in there. This is just to make my mark so that I can go in and use another marking punch. And now I'll take and set that there, and I'll mark it. So see, that's not where I would have thought it would have been. I'm really bad at centering things. Weirdly, I can see straight, I just can't see center. All right, those are marked. Now, I'm going to talk about something real quick before I go ahead and make my final cuts. On this brace, if you look at it sitting in the engine bay, there should be the same space here and here on either side. You can be off like a 1/16 of an inch because that's forward okay, but you don't want this thing to be so that the firewall has a 1/2 inch over here and it's tied against this here. Something speedy just went by. Anyway, sorry, I'm like a golden retriever with a squirrel. You don't want a lot of space here and a little space here or vice versa. This should be almost straight across. If you have the problem of having too little space and too much space here, it means that you may have a chassis difficulty that's going to need to be addressed before you put the export brace in there. With the braces in the car that are from the factory, typically they are what they are, but if you see any kind of folds or bends in them, you know you're going to have a possible problem with the rest of this. So, that being said, it looks to me like our Autocrafters export brace is going to fit in here very magically. I'm going to go get my drills and drill my holes out, and then we'll set the bolts in there just so you can see it, and I'll talk about a couple of other things. All right, now I'm going to talk real quickly about what I do when I'm drilling out something like this. I will do as I've shown you before, but when I go to my bits, I'm going to go with a smaller size, just to something to set up that will nicely fit down inside the divot made. Then I'll move to a bigger drill bit, and then I'll go to my final size. I actually do have in stock here in the studio a 25/64 bit. So I've got the exact right size to fill that hole right there. It'll make the exact right size in the lower plate as well. So that's what I'm going to do. But first, I'm going to mid-size my bit and drill that out. Now you're going through 2 layers of metal on this. So that's what you're hearing. It's hitting 2 different areas. And the big stretch. A little worried about that one. I think that one may be off just a hair. Hopefully the big boy will knock a hole in it. Is this what Shelby did? I have no idea. But it seems logical. I think I'm about to have to change a battery here. You know, some guy on the assembly line smoking a Marlboro. What did you do at the plant today, honey? I drilled me a bunch of holes. Think my battery may be on the verge of dying. Now, what I'm going to do is set that aside. I'm going to just shove these bolts down in the hole like they did back in the good old days for a nice tight fit. Now, no, I haven't put my bracket in there. This is just to show you that if you don't want to go to the trouble we're going to with making the bracket for it, you can do this. You can just go ahead and bolt it right to the firewall and be done with it, because it'll bolt right up. You want to make these pretty tight. I'm not sure what the poundage on these needs to be. I'm not going to tighten them up right now. There's really no point. So I'm just showing you what you have to do to set everything up. And now what I'll do now that I have my holes in the top of the firewall, after I finish weld up my bracket that I made, I'll go in then and use all of this with the plate welded into the bottom here to set this in place. I keep forgetting to put in my washers. There you go. That's the Autocrafters export brace for Falcon, lightly installed into our 65 Ranchero. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about now. I was not going to show you me welding, but I'm going to talk about what I've got here. Now, this is the brace that I showed you last week that we started on. You'll notice there's big gaps and stuff in here, and when I weld it, I'm going to take and weld it on this side of the brace so that I'm welding not to that rounded corner. That's what I want to steer clear of. I don't want to have to do any kind of grinding much on the back side. I did go in and put a divot here for the one piece on the firewall that sticks out that we showed you last week. I'm going to leave this thing as long as I can stand it, just so I get more support along. And I'll put holes in this thing about the 25-30 second big, here, 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 all along down this wall, so that I've got a good solid support mount here after everything is welded together. And then I'll also go and make sure that I know where the holes are here, and then I will spot weld it from the top up here, because I don't like welding from the bottom. I'll spot weld it along the way, and we should be good to go in order to make this thing a final piece. That'll be done off camera. There's really not much point in me showing you a bunch of welding. If you guys want to see me weld this thing in, we can do it next week, but I'd really rather move on to something else, because this is probably something I'm going to have Logan work on, and he's got a girlfriend, like I've said before. All bets are off on how much work he gets done around here, because let's face it, I did all this today. So I guess that's really it for right now. I mean, basically it's a weld up situation. Again, if you guys want to see me weld this thing up, let me know in the comments below. We may have already welded up by that time, and I'll have to tell you, nah, we can't do that. But all that being said, what I wanted to tell you right now is you need to go out and subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe to the channel, you're going to help us get to that 100,000 mark that we want so badly. It's just the plaque. And I know that sounds stupid, but we're on our way right now. We're at like 88,000 subscribers. As long as YouTube doesn't kick us in the nuggies with taking away subscribers like they've done in the past, we should be good to go. Beyond that, go out and check out our Patreon account. At the $10 a month level, you get monthly meetings with me on Zoom. It's a lot of fun. We get together, we talk about stuff, and it's a blast. We always have a good time. I always walk away from those very energized, as I think everybody that goes on board with that does. You're helping to feed Andrew. Basically, his salary comes out of what we do with Patreon. We can't really afford to do this any other way with all the expenses we have relating to the show. So that's actually what that money is for, is to help us pay Andrew and the guys that come in here on Saturdays to work with us, the younger guys. So do that. Now you'll see a list going up next to me, either on this side or maybe on this side. These are the guys who've put their money where their mouth is. They are doing the big support. You'll see different levels there. We've got guys that are doing the standard $10 a month. We've got guys that are doing more than that. Those are the ones in the 2 higher tiers. So you will see that that's what that is. Finally, in all, folks, be kind to each other, be good to each other, love on each other. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on down the road. I have to stop talking about Andrew having a drinking problem, because he really doesn't drink. That's the funny thing about it. See, that's why it's funny to me. You guys don't know this. You don't know about his drinking problem. I mean, you don't know about him not having a drinking problem because he doesn't drink. So he has a Disney problem. That's very real. He's fine. He can't tell me to stop. Oh, he doesn't go to Disney anymore. Is that what you're telling me, Andrew? He says it's too expensive. Disney, if you're listening, this man would go to Disney if you'd let him for free. I don't think of it. I'd go to Disney if they'd let me for free. Tell you what, Disney, you sponsor the show, and we'll do an episode of something at Disney. In Florida, we won't make you send us all the way out to LA. We'll just go down to Florida for a weekend. Maybe a weekend, 2 weekends? A week in between? I know enough people down there. I lived close to there, so I could, go see them and walk and go to Disney. Kids would enjoy it, and he could run around with the children. Me, I'm going to go to Lakeland, see my friend Mark Houlihan. And Donald Farr if he'll see me. You guys have a great week. Bye.